I now give the floor to the distinguished representative of Pakistan.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Allow me at the outset to extend my appreciation to the Secretary General and the Secretariat for the reports presented under the agenda item Oceans and Law of the Sea. We also thank the delegations of Singapore and Norway for facilitating the two omnibus resolutions under this item. Mr. President, the health of our oceans is in sharp decline, jeopardizing marine ecosystems and the billions of people who depend on them for food, livelihoods, and coastal protection. Rising temperatures, increasing acidification, and pervasive pollution are destroying habitats, driving biodiversity loss, and threatening vital marine resources. Overfishing and nutrient pollution further disrupt these ecosystems, putting the food security, economies, and resilience of coastal communities at serious risk. This is more than an environmental crisis. It is a global challenge with profound implications for human well-being and economic stability. Urgent action is essential to protect our oceans and secure a sustainable future for both people and the planet. After 3 decades of its entry into force, the UN Convention on the Law of the Sea continues to remain a cornerstone for ocean governance. Over 3 decades, it has provided a vital legal framework for the sustainable use and protection of marine resources. Mr. President, although new maritime technologies have significant potential to help achieve the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, particularly SDG 14, which focuses on the conservation and sustainable use of oceans and marine resources. Many developing countries face challenges in implementing these technologies due to the North-South digital divide, limited access to financing, and a lack of resources to build sustainable ocean-based economies. To address these challenges, capacity-building initiatives, including the transfer of marine technologies, are essential for ensuring progress on SDGs, promoting global peace and security, and supporting sustainable economic development, especially in the Global South. Mr. President, Pakistan attaches great importance to the work of the 3 bodies established under UNCLOS, the International Tribunal for the Law of the Sea, the Commission on the Limits of the Continental Shelf, CLCS, and the International Seabed Authority, ISA. Since its establishment, the ISA has functioned as the main organ for the management of the area and its vast resources as common heritage of mankind. Pakistan acknowledges the progress made on the mining code at the ISA and will continue to follow the advancements in finalizing the regulations on exploitation of deep-sea minerals within the agreed-upon timeline and roadmap. Until then, my delegation opposes the approval of any work plan for the commercial exploitation of mineral resources in the area. We believe that a robust and comprehensive regime for exploitation, including rules on equitable benefit sharing, should be developed before mining could commence anywhere in the area. Mr. President, with the adoption of the BBNJ agreement, the principle of the common heritage of mankind continues to guide and underpin the new legal regime for the conservation and sustainable use of marine biological diversity of areas beyond national jurisdiction, including the access and sharing of benefits of marine genetic resources. We hope that the agreement will contribute to the realization of a just and equitable international economic order, which considers the interests and needs of humankind as a whole, and, in particular, the special interests and needs of developing countries. Mr. President, Pakistan sincerely appreciates the work of the CLCS that has become more active each year because of the increasing number of submissions by states to determine the limits of their continental shelves beyond 200 nautical miles. In this regard, we take note of the work of the Commission to revise its rules of procedure, particularly its internal methods to manage the workload. Pakistan reiterates the importance of Rule 5A of Annex 1 of the Rules of Procedure, which stipulates that when a land or maritime dispute exists, the Commission shall not consider a submission made by any one of the states involved in the dispute until prior consent is given by all parties to the dispute. We take note with satisfaction that the CLCS has upheld this critical and cardinal rule so far, both in letter and spirit. We encourage the Commission to continue prioritizing those submissions where no dispute exists to manage its workload effectively. Mr. President, the idea of a blue economy recognizes the seas and oceans as main drivers of economic development with great potential for innovation and growth. Pakistan's interest in the blue economy emanates from a coastline of over 1,000 kilometers, an extended continental shelf, an exclusive economic zone of around 290,000 square kilometers, and two major ports in Karachi and Gwadar. The Indian Ocean offers promising potential for mutual cooperation and collaboration, but geostrategic competition and the pursuit of military dominance by one littoral state could gravely jeopardize that potential in the Indian Ocean. Lastly, Mr. President, the 30th anniversary of the entry into force of the UNCLOS serves as an opportunity to reaffirm our commitment to supporting the objectives of the Convention and its 1994 implementation agreement. Pakistan is fully committed to the 2030 agenda, including SDG 14, pertaining to conservation and the sustainable use of oceans. I thank you very much, Mr. President.
I thank the distinguished representative of Pakistan.